Welcome back. In the first video, we uncovered 4 toxic types of people you should never trust: the flatterer, the eternal victim, the perpetual rival, and the charming opportunist. These individuals use flattery, guilt, envy, and self-interest to manipulate and control you. But the journey doesn't end there. Today, we dive deeper into 4 more dangerous personalities who can quietly drain your energy and sabotage your success. From the volatile emotional storms of the unbridled reactor to the deceptive virtues of the moral chameleon, these people wear masks that hide their true intentions. We'll also explore the silent sabotur, who undermines you from the shadows, and the false savior, whose help comes at a hidden cost. Recognizing these hidden dangers is crucial if you want to protect your power, your peace, and your future. Stay with me, because the insights in this video could change the way you see your relationships forever. 4. The unbridled reactor, emotional chaos as control. After examining the subtle manipulations of charm, envy, and victimhood, we now turn to a different kind of challenge: the unbridled reactor. This is the person whose emotional volatility becomes not just a personal trait, but a weapon used to control and destabilize those around them. Their moods are unpredictable storms, sometimes fiery anger, sometimes crushing despair, that keep you constantly off balance, reacting rather than acting. The unbridled reactor lacks mastery over their emotions. They erupt in fury at the slightest perceived slight, or they collapse into self-pity at the smallest setback. Their feelings are intense and immediate, and they expect everyone around them to mirror their emotional state. This demand for emotional synchronization is a form of domination. If you resist or fail to respond, as they expect, you risk becoming the target of their wrath or guilt. Living or working with an unbridled reactor is exhausting. You find yourself walking on eggshells, carefully calculating every word and action to avoid triggering an outburst. You become hyper-aware of their moods, constantly adjusting your behavior in an attempt to maintain peace. But peace is elusive because the reactor's goal is not resolution, it is control. By flooding the space with emotional chaos, they drown out rational conversation and seize power through instability. Their outbursts serve multiple purposes. On one hand, they intimidate, silencing dissent and forcing compliance. On the other, they create a dynamic where you feel responsible for their emotional well-being, drawing you into caretaking roles that distract from your own needs. Over time, this can erode your confidence and sense of autonomy. The unbridled reactor often frames their behavior as honesty or authenticity. They claim they are simply being real, contrasting themselves with others they label as fake or detached. This performance convinces some that their emotional extremes are a sign of passion or integrity. But true emotional honesty is measured and deliberate. It seeks understanding and connection, not submission. The reactor's intensity is a form of manipulation designed to keep others off balance and compliant. Consider the impact this has on your mental health and decision-making. When you are constantly reacting to someone else's unpredictable emotions, you lose clarity. You become reactive rather than proactive, prioritizing their feelings over your goals. This imbalance leads to burnout, resentment, and a diminished ability to lead or make sound choices. In relationships, the unbridled reactor may punish perceived slights with silent treatment, angry outbursts, or tears of frustration. They may demand loyalty, but offer no stability in return. Their volatility can turn minor disagreements into full-blown conflicts, making you feel as if you must constantly appease them to avoid disaster. This creates a cycle where your power is gradually surrendered to their emotional whims. Furthermore, the unbridled reactor's chaos rarely remains contained. Their dramas spill over into other areas of life, involving you in conflicts, damaging reputations, and forcing you to defend or explain their behavior. When you try to set boundaries or distance yourself, they may accuse you of abandonment or cruelty, reversing the roles of victim and perpetrator. Machiavelli understood that those who cannot govern themselves are unfit to lead others. This principle applies equally in personal and professional contexts. When you align yourself with someone who lacks emotional discipline, you risk being pulled into their storms and losing your own footing. Maintaining boundaries and refusing to match their volatility is essential to preserving your power and peace. The most effective response to an unbridled reactor is to practice emotional mastery yourself. This means observing rather than reacting, maintaining calm in the face of provocation, and refusing to be drawn into their chaos. Silence and steadiness become your greatest tools, signaling that you will not be manipulated by their moods. It's also important to recognize that the cycle of rage, regret, and reconciliation often repeats with the unbridled reactor. Apologies and promises to change may come quickly, only to be followed by another explosion. Understanding this pattern helps you avoid being trapped by false hope and emotional roller coasters. Ask yourself, who in your life punishes you with their moods? Who expects you to absorb their anger, sadness, or fear without question? Who demands loyalty but offers no stability? These questions can help you identify the unbridled reactor and take steps to protect yourself. Ultimately, choosing to step back or set firm boundaries with such individuals is not a betrayal. It is an act of self-preservation. It may feel uncomfortable or be met with resistance, but it is necessary to maintain your clarity and freedom. As we move on, the next type to watch for is the moral chameleon, someone who shifts their principles like the wind, using morality as a mask to manipulate others. Understanding their tactics will further sharpen your ability to navigate complex relationships with wisdom and confidence. 3. The moral chameleon hypocrisy, dressed as virtue. Following the emotional turbulence caused by the unbridled reactor, we now face a far more insidious and calculated adversary, the moral chameleon. This person dons the cloak of virtue with remarkable skill, presenting themselves as a paragon of morality, justice, and integrity. Their words resonate with righteous passion, and they position themselves as champions of truth and defenders of high principles. But beneath this polished facade lies a shifting, self-serving character, whose allegiance is not to any consistent moral code, but to whatever serves their personal advantage at the moment. The defining characteristic of the moral chameleon is their remarkable ability to adapt their principles and values like a chameleon changes its colors. Their convictions are flexible and malleable, easily reshaped to fit the audience context or opportunity. They may preach unwavering loyalty and justice in one setting, only to betray those very ideals in another, if it benefits them. This opportunistic flexibility is not a sign of growth or open-mindedness, but a deliberate strategy to maintain power and control. Unlike people with genuine integrity, who strive for consistency between their words and actions, the moral chameleon thrives on contradiction and selective honesty. They often say one thing in public while doing the opposite in private. Their narrative shifts fluidly, always tailored to justify their behavior and position themselves favorably. This creates confusion and doubt among those around them, making it difficult to hold them accountable or to trust their intentions. One of their most potent tools is the use of moral language as a weapon. The moral chameleon wields concepts like justice, fairness, and loyalty not to build genuine trust, but to manipulate and silence criticism. If you challenge them, they will accuse you of being cynical, jealous, or mean-spirited, painting themselves as the victim of unfair attacks. They are adept at rallying support by portraying themselves as the righteous hero standing against misguided enemies. Their hypocrisy often reveals itself in how they judge others versus how they treat themselves. The moral chameleon holds everyone to impossible standards, condemning any real or perceived flaws with fierce indignation. Yet when it comes to their own actions, they demand leniency, understanding, and endless forgiveness. This double standard serves to elevate their status while excusing their misdeeds. Consider a scenario in the workplace where such a person loudly advocates for transparency and honesty, but secretly undermines colleagues through gossip and deceit. They might publicly champion team loyalty, but privately conspire to advance their own career at the expense of others. Their moral grandstanding is a mask that hides a ruthless, self-serving agenda. When confronted about inconsistencies or unethical behavior, the moral chameleon rarely admits fault. Instead, they deflect blame onto others, escalate conflicts, or manipulate narratives to cast themselves as the aggrieved party. They excel at rewriting history, twisting facts to support their version of events, and discrediting anyone who challenges them. This ability to control the story and the perceptions of others is central to their survival and influence. Machiavelli recognized the danger of such individuals. He noted that many use morality not as a guide for right action, but as a mask to conceal their true motives. The moral chameleon thrives on the desire of society to see the world in terms of heroes and villains, saints, and sinners. By playing various roles, hero, victim, martyr, they manipulate the emotions and loyalties of others, securing their power through performance rather than principle. To see through the moral chameleon requires a vigilant and discerning eye. Pay close attention to consistency over time. Do they apply the same standards to themselves as they do to others? Is their behavior in private aligned with their public persona? Do they follow through on promises, especially when it costs them? Genuine integrity is humble and private. It acknowledges flaws and seeks to improve. The chameleon's integrity is performative and fragile. Observe their reactions when held accountable. Do they respond with openness and reflection, or with defensiveness and counterattacks? Do they engage in honest dialogue or attempt to rally others against their critics? These responses reveal much about their true character. Protecting yourself from the moral chameleon means demanding consistency and testing words against actions. Do not be seduced by eloquence or lofty ideals alone. Guard your vulnerabilities carefully, as they will use your trust and good intentions against you if given the chance. Maintain a healthy skepticism, especially when their moral judgments feel harsh or hypocritical. It's also important to recognize the emotional toll this person can take. Their manipulation can leave you doubting your own judgment, confused about right and wrong, and isolated as they gather allies through storytelling and influence. Breaking free from their influence requires clarity, courage, and sometimes difficult decisions about whom to trust. Remember, the power of the moral chameleon depends on your willingness to accept their narrative without question. When you refuse to look away to excuse inconsistencies or to tolerate double standards, you expose their true nature. That's when they turn adversarial, not because you wronged them, but because you saw them clearly. Understanding the moral chameleon not only sharpens your ability to identify deceit, but also strengthens your commitment to authentic integrity. It reminds you that true virtue is consistent, humble, and private, not a performance for an audience. As we continue this journey, the next type of person we will explore is the silent saboteur, someone who undermines your success, not with overt attacks or loud words, but through subtle behind-the-scenes actions. Unlike the moral chameleon's public performance, the saboteur's work is quiet, slow and potentially far more damaging. 2. The silent saboteur. Subtle, undermining from the shadows. As we near the end of this journey, it's time to expose one of the most covert and destructive types of people. You should never trust the silent saboteur. Unlike those who wield obvious weapons, like flattery, emotional outbursts, or moral posturing, the silent saboteur's power lies in invisibility and subtlety. They operate quietly behind the scenes, eroding your success reputation, and piece by piece, leaving you bewildered about how and when your foundation began to crumble. The silent saboteur is a master of indirect influence and passive aggression. They rarely engage in open conflict or direct confrontation because that would expose their intentions and risk retaliation. Instead, they work through omission delay, misdirection, and whispered half-truths. Their tactics are designed to create confusion, foster mistrust, and weaken your position without ever being caught red-handed. This person might be the colleague who forgets to include you in important communications, or the team member who misses deadlines that derail your projects, seemingly by accident. They may be the friend who spreads rumors, or twists your words subtly in private conversations, creating doubt about your character. In social or professional settings, they are the quiet underminer whose influence works in the background, but whose effect is deeply felt. The genius of the silent saboteur's method is that their actions are plausible deniability incarnate. If questioned, they deny wrongdoing, blame misunderstandings, or point fingers at others. This ambiguity protects them from direct blame and makes it hard for you to prove their betrayal to others. Meanwhile, the damage piles up, your trust erodes, and your progress stalls. Consider how damaging this can be over time. Unlike a dramatic betrayal that shocks you into awareness, the silent saboteur's slow erosion is insidious. You may notice your projects failing inexplicably, your reputation questioned in subtle ways, or your support network quietly shrinking. Yet pinpointing the cause feels elusive, leaving you vulnerable and uncertain. Because their work is quiet and indirect, the silent saboteur often blends seamlessly into your trusted circle. They appear cooperative and friendly, keeping their true motives hidden behind smiles and polite words. This duplicity makes them all the more dangerous. You may never suspect them until the consequences become impossible to ignore. Their motivations vary. Some seek to advance their own status by pulling others down. Others may harbor resentment or jealousy, expressing it through sabotage rather than open conflict. In certain cases, the silent saboteur may be driven by fear. Fear of being overshadowed or marginalized, leading them to undermine quietly rather than risk confrontation. Recognizing the silent saboteur requires keen observation and a focus on patterns rather than isolated incidents. Ask yourself, who consistently fails to support you when it matters? Who benefits from your setbacks or failures? Who seems to complicate your efforts more than contribute? Trust your intuition if something feels off, even if the evidence is indirect. Machiavelli's insights remind us that the greatest threats are often internal, not external. The silent saboteur embodies this truth, operating from within your trusted circles to erode your foundations. Their betrayal is a slow poison, quiet, persistent, and potentially devastating. Dealing with a silent saboteur is challenging because direct confrontation can backfire without clear proof. Instead, build a careful record of incidents, seek support from reliable allies, and control the flow of sensitive information. Strengthen your boundaries by limiting what you share and with whom. In many cases, distancing yourself gradually is more effective than open conflict. It's also crucial to maintain resilience and focus. Saboteurs aim to distract and demoralize. By staying grounded in your goals and cultivating a circle of genuine supporters, you shield yourself from their influence. Surround yourself with people who reinforce your strengths and provide honest feedback. Ultimately, the silent saboteur's power depends on your willingness to accept confusion, doubt, and setbacks without seeking clarity. By committing to awareness, vigilance, and deliberate action, you can protect your progress and peace from these hidden attacks. As we prepare to conclude this series, we will explore the final type of person you must never trust: the false savior. This individual offers help and guidance, but hides a cage behind their kindness, a subtle form of control that breeds dependency rather than freedom. Understanding their tactics will complete your arsenal for safeguarding yourself against manipulation in all its forms. 1. The false savior, the helper who controls. We arrive now at the last and perhaps most deceptively dangerous type of person you must never trust: the false savior. This individual positions themselves as a rescuer, a mentor, or a generous helper, offering guidance, support, and solutions when you are vulnerable or struggling. On the surface, their presence feels like a blessing, someone who seems to genuinely care and wants to lift you up. But beneath this mask of benevolence lies a hidden agenda: control. The false savior's kindness is a cage disguised as generosity. They offer help not out of selfless concern, but to create dependency. Their support is a strategic investment designed to bind you to them, making you feel obligated, indebted, and eventually powerless without their involvement. Each favor, each piece of advice is a thread in a web that entangles you more tightly. Unlike true allies who empower you to stand on your own, the false savior's goal is to keep you reliant on them. They are uncomfortable with your independence or growth beyond their influence because it threatens their control. They want you to believe that without their help, you are incapable of success or survival. This dynamic fosters a relationship of imbalance, where gratitude becomes a subtle form of bondage. The psychological manipulation here is sophisticated. The false savior often frames their help as a shared cause or mutual journey, appealing to your sense of loyalty and trust. They might say things like, "We're in this together," or "Let me guide you through this." These words sound supportive, but carry an implicit message you owe them: your allegiance, your time, and sometimes even your silence. This person excels at creating emotional debt. Every act of kindness becomes a reason for you to comply with their wishes or tolerate their demands. When you hesitate or assert boundaries, they remind you explicitly or implicitly of all they have done for you. Refusing their control can make you feel ungrateful or selfish, as if you are betraying someone who saved you. An example might be a mentor who initially offers valuable guidance, but gradually demands more time, loyalty, and favors in return. Their help becomes a means to insert themselves into your decisions, shape your path, and influence your relationships. They may discourage you from pursuing opportunities that don't include them, or criticize you when you assert independence. The false savior also uses guilt as a powerful tool. They know that most people want to reciprocate kindness and maintain harmony. By positioning themselves as indispensable, they create a moral obligation that is difficult to break without feeling guilty or disloyal. This guilt is their leverage, a subtle form of emotional blackmail. Machiavelli would likely warn that such relationships weaken your sovereignty. True generosity empowers and liberates. False generosity controls and confines. Being cautious about whom you allow to save you is essential for maintaining your freedom and self-respect. To protect yourself from the false savior, develop clear boundaries around help and advice. Appreciate genuine support, but remain alert to signs of manipulation or control. Question whether the relationship encourages your growth and autonomy or fosters dependency and obligation. It's important to remember that accepting help does not mean surrendering your agency. True allies want to see you thrive independently, not tethered to their presence. If you sense that someone's help comes with strings attached, it's crucial to reassess the relationship and prioritize your well-being. As we conclude this series on the 8 types of people you must never trust, remember that recognizing these patterns is the first step toward empowerment. Trust is precious and must be guarded wisely. Your peace, power, and freedom depend on your ability to see clearly and choose carefully. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you found this video valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And as always, stay vigilant and true to yourself. We have now walked through 8 distinct types of people you should never trust, from the sweetest poison of the flatterer, through the emotional storms of the unbridled reactor, to the quiet, corrosive influence of the silent sabotur, and finally, the false savior, whose kindness is a cage. Each type operates differently, but all share one common goal: to manipulate, control, or undermine you for their own gain. Recognizing these patterns is not about fostering paranoia or suspicion. It is about reclaiming your power, protecting your peace, and cultivating relationships that truly serve your growth and well-being. Trust is a precious resource, and not everyone deserves it. Being able to discern true allies from toxic influences is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. Remember, your freedom depends on clarity and courage. The courage to say no, to set boundaries, and to walk away when necessary. It is better to stand alone than to be surrounded by those who quietly chip away at your strength and confidence. If this video resonated with you, please like, comment, and subscribe. Share your thoughts below. Which of these types have you encountered? How did you handle them? Your experiences can help others navigate these challenges as well. Stay tuned for more insights on mastering your environment and yourself. Until then, stay vigilant, stay clear, and above all, choose your freedom.